Hey everyone, welcome to class. In today's video, I'm going to start a two-part series on drawing portraits. And this is a very basic introduction to proportions of the face and basic shapes of individual parts of the face. So today I just want to look at proportions, the overall structure of the face, eyes, and nose. Now you can look up your own little step-by-step drawings like this, but what I'm going to do is break down what these types of instructions can do for you to help you improve your portrait drawing from photographs or from real life. But before we get started, let's make sure we have everything we need. I've got paper, pencil, eraser, pencil sharpener, and you want to have some colored pencils because I will do some basic coloring. So this is your very basic introduction to portrait drawing. This is appropriate for somebody who has never tried to draw faces, who is scared of trying to draw faces because their stuff comes out like bad stick people. If you have more experience with this, there's probably not a lot that you're going to get from this video, but you never know, there may be a little thing that you get. So let's start off with proportions of the face, and I am going to be referencing these handouts. If you're one of my students, you should have these, but if you don't have them, I'll see if I can link them in the description of the video, but you can also just look up your own version of these online. So let's start with your basic structure here. First thing we need to notice is that the head is not a circle. A lot of people, first mistake they make is they try to draw the head as a circle. I've even had students who get a compass or get something that is a circle to draw their circle. But your head is not shaped like this. Your head is more shaped like an egg or an oval. So if you're going with the egg shape, the broader side of the egg is at the top, whereas the pointy side is your chin. And if you have a more oval face, you're just not going to have that sort of fatter end at the top. It'll be more uniform. So let's start by drawing our egg head. So what I'm doing here is I had my circle and now I've just added the rest of the egg shape to it. And again, I'm not going off of a specific person here. We're just talking about general proportions. I'm going to erase this line because it is not important to my drawing. And I have a lot of lines out here. I can clean that up right now. I could clean it up later. It doesn't really matter. There we go. Now, we know that your face is divided in half and kind of reflected across both sides, but it's important to note that your face, or most people's faces, are not a perfect reflection. They are not identical on both sides. And so if you draw one eye too high, if you draw one eye a little higher than the other, or the mouth is a little bit lopsided, most of the time that's okay because real people aren't perfect. So I'm going to draw a halfway line to divide this. Now, if you can't look at this and tell where halfway is, one trick you can do is to One trick you can use is to fold your face in half. Now, I'm not talking about your paper. I'm talking about the outer edges of your face. Fold this so that those two lines right there meet up. See how my face isn't perfectly centered in my paper, so I'm not folding my paper in half. All right, and that finds center for me. You have to make sure that you're folding to the lines that are the outline of your head, not your paper. And see, I was pretty close. That would have been close enough. And I'm not worried about these lines being perfectly straight because they are all going to get erased, and it's more important that I draw them lightly than I draw them perfectly. The next thing we're going to do is divide the face in half right here, so vertically. Now this one is a little bit harder to eyeball, so let's use that folding trick again, but this time fold your chin line up to the top of the head line. Now if you don't want to crease your paper entirely, you could just pinch it here and get a little bit of a crease, but this is just practice, so I don't care if my paper's folded. Now, most people don't realize this, but your eyes are halfway down your head. All this is forehead, a lot of it covered by bangs or maybe part of your hairline, but your eyes are halfway down your head. Then we're going to draw another halfway line between the bottom of the chin and your previous half line. And that, generally speaking, is where the bottom of your nose goes to. Now, some people might have a slightly shorter or longer nose, but if you draw it halfway down to the chin, you're going to have a recognizable face that doesn't look wonky. Alright, so I'm matching up my chin line to this. That time I just marked it a little bit. Okay. Then we're going to draw another line that is a third of the way down from this line. So try to imagine this portion divided into thirds. What you can do is draw a couple little dashes and say, that looks pretty even, and then draw that entire line across. Ooh. Alright, so this is halfway where your eyes will go, quarter of the way where the end of your nose and the bottom of your ears will go, and then down here, this third of the way from that line is where the mouth will go. And when I say the mouth, I mean the center line, so your upper lip up here, lower lip below. Alright, now that we have mapped out the head, let's get into some actual facial features. So another proportion that people don't realize is that your eyes are 1/5 the width of your head. There is usually a space between your eyes that's the same width as one of your eyes, and looking straight on from the outer corner of your eye to the outer edge of your head is also one eye width. So what I'm going to do here is divide this line into fifths. Now, generally people want to make eyes bigger than they are, and that makes them look crazy unless they're drawing anime. So look, if I hold my pencil here, I use it to measure, so I hold my eraser up against this line, put my nail on that line, then move it over. There's not enough room over here. That's not a fit. So I need to make the space that I've created for this eye a little bit skinnier. Putting eyes too far apart can also make you look very strange. Still feel like this eye is a lot bigger. Another thing you could do is measure this. But see, this is just over 5 inches wide, and that makes it a little more difficult to calculate. So it might be easier just to guess. try this again. I don't know why fifths are so much harder than fourths. Okay, that's looking better. Maybe just a little bit wider. Okay, that's pretty good. Those are all approximately the same width. Now, we're not a cyclops, so there's no eye here. This is where the bridge of your nose will go. Here is one eye. Here's the space between the eye and the outer edge of your head. And what I'm going to do here is just draw a little almond or pointy oval shape to help me remember that my eye goes here. Okay, so let's jump into detail with the eyes. So I have this handout here, came from DeviantArt originally. Now this has some basic outline, then some basic shading or toning added, then some more shading, and then really every step is adding more layers of shading and adding more detail into the eyebrow. This doesn't really guide you through how to know what details you need, what shape or eyes, what should I look for. So the first thing I want you to do is take a picture of your eye or have a mirror on hand. Now one thing, and I have my picture right here. Well, I have a couple pictures right here. So one thing you should notice is that your eyes are a different shape if you are smiling than if you are not. So in this picture, where I'm not smiling, my eye is a lot more open. Whereas in a picture of me smiling, the bottom lid of my eye comes up, and most people comes up, upper eyelid closes a little bit, and this is all. And so your eye is less open when you're smiling than if your face is static. So once you've got your picture of your eye, let's just keep that close by. What we want to look at is what is the general shape of an eye. So people are unique because their eyes are what's called an almond shape, like the nut, whereas animals have round eyes. People do not have circular eyes. We see a lot of the white in our eye. So you want to look at the upper and lower lid. What is that shape? And to some extent, that little red part in the corner of your eye, that little corner can be different shapes for different people. Well, really, all of this can be different shapes for different people, but that part can change a lot. It's very exaggerated. It feels very separate from the rest of the eye in this picture, whereas in my own picture, it doesn't feel as big of a difference or as defined. So the first thing you want to look at is the bottom of your eye probably doesn't come down very far. It should be a very shallow curve. One mistake a lot of people do is trying to draw that down like a big circle, and that's just not right. Eyes just aren't circles. So give yourself a pretty shallow curve here. And then the upper eyelid is usually more open. So it's usually a taller curve, and you also want to look for where is the top of your curve. So for some people, the apex of that curve, or the outermost part, might be over to the outside of their face. For some people, it might be towards the inside of their face. And generally speaking, when we're drawing basic eyes, you can make that top of the curve right in the middle of the eye. Now for me, my apex is slightly in towards my nose. And then I'm going to look at this corner here. I have a pretty straight line here, but do you have a little bit of a curve in before getting to that little pink part? And then on the bottom part of my eye, it comes in a little bit and then goes away curves away from the pink. One thing that's hard to do when you're drawing flat before shading is your eye will look funky because it's not shaded, because it's not colored. When you're trying to draw something that's three-dimensional in a flat way, it will look a little bit crazy for a while, and that's okay. Just accept that it's part of the process. I'm going to go ahead and put a line here to indicate that little pink part of my eye, but I'm not going to make it a solid outline because that difference between the pink and the white of my eye is soft and you don't really recognize it. The next thing you want to look at is the size of your iris. Now, some people will try to draw their iris like this, where it doesn't touch their either eyelid, and that makes you look afraid. If you watch a lot of cartoons, you'll notice that when a character's eyes shrink in their socket, or their little color part of their eye shrinks, that's because they're afraid or because they're shocked. So we don't want you to look scared. And one way to remedy that is to draw your iris bigger. Now look at your picture. Some people's iris touches both the top and the bottom of their eyelid. Some only touch the top. And some, if you're surprised, it may only touch the bottom. So if you look at this example, you can see that most of the iris sticks out, but some of it is hidden behind the eyelid. So we need to draw the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, if I didn't say that before, as if it disappears behind the eyelid. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that whole circle. And it's not perfect, and that is okay. All right, so I drew the rest of the circle to help me get this shape right. And then I'm going to erase it. And see, now I have an eye that looks more realistic, more relaxed. The next thing is the pupil, which is the black part of the eye. Now, in this example, you can see the pupil touches that top eyelid and maybe even goes behind it a little bit. When your pupil is small, you look afraid. Your pupil changes sizes depending on how much light is in the room. But it also psychologically changes. If you see something you like or someone you love, your pupil dilates or it gets bigger. Where if you're scared, it actually shrinks, as if to say, I don't want to see all that. So drawing your pupil more relaxed and bigger can make your face look softer, make your face look nicer. So I'm going to draw my pupil here, pretty good size, and I'm going to make it touch my top eyelid, because having it not touch the top eyelid can look odd. Another thing, you want to make sure that your pupil is centered in your iris. You want to have the same amount of iris on either side, top, bottom, left, right. So you want to have an equal amount to color all the way around the pupil. If you don't do that, your eye is going to look weird because the pupil is always centered in the eye. Now, let's do eyelashes. So eyelashes, a lot of the time on cartoons, look like that. We don't want that for your more realistic face. That's okay for cartoons. But for eyelashes on a more realistic face, we want to make them curl, not draw them straight. So some people, when they first try to draw eyelashes, will make them very stick-like and stick out straight from the eye, and that's not right either. We want to give them a slight curve. Alright, so starting at the eyelid, you want to go towards the outside of the face. So if this is where the nose is, and then the ear is over here, you want to draw the eyelashes like they're going towards the ear and then curling up. And I'm making these very neat, but in real life, eyelashes are not this organized. So once you get an idea for that basic shape, just layer them. Put a lot of them like this, and see how thick and pretty those look? And then as you go towards the inside of the eye, you want to draw those lines shorter because they look shorter when you look somebody head on. And that's because of foreshortening. You can also have some eyelashes start to curl into the wide of the eye. They're not going in the eye, but they're blocking out part of the eye and then maybe even going down like this. But that may look a little weird, especially on a more simplified cartoon version of a person, so I'm not gonna do that. And you can actually stop about halfway. Now, guys have eyelashes too, but they don't accentuate them with makeup. So if you're a guy, you could draw your eyelashes a lot shorter, and you can draw them a lot thinner. So, and guys can draw their eyelashes in brown or like a light brown instead of black to make them stand out less. And when you're doing a really simple portrait, guys can get away with not drawing eyelashes at all if they like. Okay. Now, for bottom lashes, for guys, you could just do a couple or none at all. For girls, you probably want to do several, but we're going to start with a curl that kind of goes up and then down a lot. So these are like little C's coming off the bottom of the eye. And remember that curl goes towards the ear. So if I'm drawing the eye on the opposite side of the face, running out of room here. Here's the other side of my face with a little ear. Okay, bridge of nose, ear. So on this side of the face, the lashes go out towards the ear, and on this side, they go out towards this ear. And you're probably going to be better at drawing these in one direction than the other, and that's okay. So you want to have a couple of long lashes on the outside of the eye, and then as you come in, make those lashes shorter, and actually as you get towards the nose, you can actually make them curl the opposite way. Kind of like the lines on a pumpkin, how they radiate out from the center. Eyelashes do the same thing. Somebody who skipped ahead to this part of the video just sees the pumpkin is like, why? Alright, so let's get back to the main part of my face here. And I'm going to go ahead and add my eyelashes. And I'm accentuating them more than what they look like in my photo because I feel like it. Then I'm just going to put a few eyelashes on the bottom. You know what? My eye looks kind of sad. I think because this corner is a little low. I'm going to move that in a little bit. I think that looks better. Okay, I'm going to stop messing with that now. Let's get into color and shading. So if you really want to get into details, you can observe the shading on the cornea, on the white part of the eye, and actually go in and add shading to your eyeball. There's usually a bit of a shadow under the eyelashes and along the edge of the bottom eyelid, but you don't have to do that. Now, time to get out my colored pencils. I'm going to start with black here, start with the pupil. Pupils are always black, that middle part of the eye. That is a hole into the center of your eye where light shines in and is interpreted by your brain, basically. Now, eyes, if you just color this solid black, your eyes will look dead like shark eyes. So we don't want that. We want you to look alive, lively. So a really good step here is to add a little bit of a highlight, a little bit of light reflecting off the shiny surface of your eye. So I'm just going to draw a little oval shape here. It could be a circle. That light shape changes depending on what your light source is. If you really look at this picture, you can see that I'm looking at my back door and the reflection of my hands holding my cell phone, taking my picture. I don't like that this reflection in this photo covers up almost my entire pupil. We want to see part of it. It just makes for a better picture. So I've got my little white drawn there, and then I'm going to color around it. And remember, I'm just coloring in the pupil. I'm not coloring in the colored part of the eye, the iris. Now, one cool trick I learned to make a really dark black is to mix colored pencil and regular pencil. By doing that, you create this really rich velvety black. Now, we need to color the iris. So your iris has one basic color, but usually has a variety of colors in it. If you have lighter colored eyes, if you have really dark brown eyes, you probably don't have a lot of variation. But for people with lighter eyes like mine, which are blue, or people with hazel eyes especially, you're going to have quite a variety. So you really want to look at your picture or your reflection for what colors you need. I'm going to use this sky blue and this dark blue. So the sky blue is going to be my base. The dark or regular blue is going to be what I add some details with. And then I do have some hazel at the very center of my eye, so I can use this brown if I want to. Now, if you have blue eyes and you don't really want to add any sort of brown details, just don't. Nobody else is going to tell you how to color your own eyes. And you can also get a white, if you have light colored eyes, to blend those colors together better. So let's start by laying down our base color. Now, this is your color that is the main color of your iris. And it's usually a lighter shade. Now, I am coloring radially, meaning that I'm coloring back and forth from the outside of the iris to the inside where it becomes the pupil, like rays of the sun. And that's because the muscles that control your pupil are directional. They go from the outside to the inside. Yeah, guys, that color, that's me, that's muscle. So I'm coloring in that radial direction to make my eye look more realistic. Now, if I look at my picture of my eye, I can see that the outline of my iris is a fairly dark blue, and I could even go darker than this blue, but I'm going to start here. I need to sharpen this. Always keep your pencils sharp, guys. It helps. So I'm going to outline my iris with this dark blue. If you have really dark brown eyes, you might want to do this with black if you see an outline. If you don't see an outline, don't worry about it. Then I'm gonna let this line creep into the main color of my iris a little bit. I'm just gonna color it in a little ways. And I'm not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be an even amount because that's gonna look more realistic and more natural if it's uneven. Then I'm going to add in some longer dark lines that maybe cross all the way across the iris. Again, going from the outside to the inside, making a straight line there. That's going to add more depth. And now my white, that reflection in the eye, goes into the iris as well. That makes it more realistic. If it's in the pupil and the iris, it just looks better. And I am not coloring that in. If you accidentally did that, get yourself a little eraser and try to fix it. Okay, now I'm going to take this dark blue, and I'm not outlining the pupil, but I'm just layering my dark blue color over the light blue right close to the iris. The pupil. To kind of smooth it out and get rid of any of those white spots that might be left. Alright, and there is a very nice, very simple eye. Now I can go back and forth and keep coloring with my light and then with my darker blue, mixing those colors to really try and match. To really try and match the way my eye really looks. The other thing I can do here is use white. If I don't want my color to get darker, but I need to smooth it, I can use white to do that. I think that's coming along well. Now, my pupil is really dark, but my eyelashes aren't that dark, so I can take my colored pencil and go back over them to make them darker. And then the eye's just going to look kind of odd right now because the face is white. When you get the face colored with a nice skin tone, it will look better. The eyes will look better because they'll be in the correct contents. The other thing I can do here is color in that little pink part right here. I'm going to use this peach color. Because while that little pink part, like next to your skin color, looks really pink, if you put it next to something that's hot pink, it's not really very pink. Then I'm going to take this light pink and just add a little bit of rosiness to it. And that is it. Now, depending on the tone of your skin, that little pink part may be a different color for you, but this works for me. Okay, this eye is done. Now, you should probably practice both eyes and notice how they're shaped a little bit differently. My eye on this side is a little bit more round, whereas the one over here has more of a point to it. So notice that your eyes are probably slightly different shapes. You don't want to over exaggerate it, but just observe it, be aware of it, so that way you can draw more accurately. But let's move on. Let's move on for now. Oh, eyebrows. We need to do eyebrows. Okay, look at your reflection or your picture of your eye. Make sure that you can see your eyebrow. Here's the trick. And this is a trick that people use to pluck their eyebrows to make them look the right shape as well. Let's put a pencil or some sort of straight edge here. The front or the part of your eyebrow that is next to your nose should be vertically straight up from the inside corner of your eye. So I'm putting a little mark. Ooh, I'm having a hard time here. Putting a little mark right there. And the outer corner of your eyebrow should go at an angle from the corner of your eye outward, like a 45-degree angle right here. Now, how close your eyebrow is to your eye depends on your face. Some people have higher, some people lower. I actually need to be like right here. And then I'm just going to draw my basic shape. What you want to look at is the negative space. How much space is between the arch of your eyebrow and that eyelid. Okay, then you want to get the basic shape of your eyebrow. So I'm going to draw the top outline. And people's eyebrows are a lot of different shapes. Yours may be more curved, it may be less curved, it may be more straight, it may be thicker, it may be thinner, right? Especially if you pluck your eyebrows. I mean, that just adds in a whole new set of variables. So once you get your eyebrow shape outline drawn, the real trick to drawing good eyebrows is to pick a dark color, brown, or something in your hair color. But even people who are blonde usually have darker eyebrows. And you're just going to sharpen that pencil really. You just want to make sure your pencil is nice and sharp. And then look at the direction that your hair grows in your eyebrows. So if we look at this example, you can see they're drawing their hairs growing upward, away from the eye. And then as they get out here, they start to curve down. So if I look at my eyebrow, the front of this side actually goes up and out towards my nose for a couple of hairs. And then you're going to draw those hairs growing usually out towards your ear. And I'm just going to keep drawing these lines until I fill up this whole shape that I've drawn for myself. Then I can take my pencil, my eraser, and erase my pencil lines from the outline, and that may erase a little bit of colored pencil, but colored pencil is actually wax-based, so it doesn't erase as easily as the graphite from your pencil. And that's actually a little too tame for what my real eyebrow looks like. But it's your portrait. You can make it look better than you actually look if you want. Okay, I think that's decent. That you look at that, you say, oh, eyebrow, you know? And I don't want to get too crazy looking. All right. Now we'll move on from the eye. The last thing I want to do in this video is the nose. Remember, with our proportions here, the nose is supposed to come down to this line. Now that may seem like a little hard to believe, so look at your picture and I want you to measure your face. Hold your finger one between your corners of your eyes and one under the bottom of your nose, and then move it down and measure that distance between the bottom of your chin to the underside of your nose and see if that really is truly halfway. So if I look at my photograph, then I do that. My nose is actually shorter. If I go from the corner of my eyes to my nose, nose two goes to like the middle of my chin. And that's accurate to real life. So this proportion may not be correct. So measure, hold your fingers up to your face, from the corner of your eye to the bottom of your nose, and then move it down without moving your fingers and see how far that is. I'm going to adjust this line for mine. I think that will be better. Now, for my students who are making the encouraging self-portrait, right here is actually where we're gonna cut off the portrait. So you're just gonna have your eyes, bridge of your nose, tops of your ears, and your forehead. But I thought it would be nice to go ahead and show you how to draw the whole nose in case you just wanted to know. So here is my nose handout. This one breaks down your nose into its structure. So this circle is the ball of your nose, the very point. And that can be very differently shaped. It could be more pointy, it could be more flat, it could be very broad, it could be very narrow. So you just need to draw a circle that represents what the end of your nose looks like. Then you draw these two lines going upward that represent the bridge of the nose. Not the part that is attached to the rest of your face, right? But the part that makes up the very end. Some people this may be very broad, some people this may be very narrow. Then we've got these little lines here that represent the nostrils and the outline of the nostrils. And now here, they've drawn some more shapes, more lines to shape the ball of the nose, kind of drawing where the underlying cartilage is. That's going to help them shade, shade, shade. Now, noses, usually we draw them with very few lines because one, nobody wants to look like they have a big nose. And two, noses are unique because there's no difference in the color of the skin on your nose versus the color of the skin on your rest of your face. With eyes, they have a clear outline because you have eyelashes and the white of your eye. That's very different from the skin tone of the rest of your face. And lips. Lips are a pinkish version of the rest of your skin color. There's more pink, maybe a little bit darker, maybe a little bit lighter than the rest of your face. But noses are the same color skin as the rest of your face, and so drawing too many lines makes them stand out too much. So the real trick to drawing a good nose is learning how to shade. Now, I'm going to use this sort of method. The end of my nose is going to go down here. Draw that little circle end. And then my nose seems pretty narrow, I think. I'm going to draw that little nostril here, outside of the nostril out here. And you know, the first time drawing a nose, you may draw it wildly out of proportion. You may need to erase and try again. And that's fine, because practice, all about learning. Here's the bridge of my nose. Okay, so what I'm looking at in my picture here is that there's a pretty heavy shadow here. So I'm going to include that. It's a pretty heavy shadow right here, but not as big as the other side. I'm going to do a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of line here. And then I'm basically going to erase the rest of this because it's not that important to my picture. Most of this would actually need to be done in color when I have colored pencil. But I've just got a soft outline here that I can use for reference. Noses are hard, people. Especially, I think I'm looking at it too big. So even if you want to draw your nostrils, I don't recommend doing them in black. I recommend at the darkest doing them in brown, because that's going to make your nose not stand out too much, especially for a more realistic approach. If you're doing a cartoon, do whatever you want, but even like a lot of cartoons won't outline their characters in black. They outline them in the darker version of the fill color. When you get ready to color your skin, if you're pretty fair-skinned like me, you want to find like all your peach and sand type colors. Nothing too yellow. And you may want to pick up like a little bit of pink, a light pink, because you can use that to color the lips. And you may even want to pick up a red. If you have a lot of red tone in your skin, you can lightly color the red over this peachy color to give it more life. if you have darker skin, you want to try several browns until you find the one that matches your skin tone. You know, maybe you're somewhere in between and you need to mix like a light brown with a peach to get your skin tone. The real thing here with skin tone is that we come in all shades and you're going to have to play around with this. You're going to have to figure out what works for you. That's like a goldenrod. That's too yellow. The other thing to be aware of when you're trying to find a skin tone is that a lot of color pencils, this paint on the outside, isn't made from the same thing that's on the inside from that lead. And so this color can be misleading. It may not match. So the only test you can really do is to color it on your paper. And then you can color it like, put your skin up to it. Okay, that kind of matches. Okay, that's a little bit less pink. That's gonna be better. But what if I layer them together? Is that gonna be even better? Or will that be worse? Do I think I'm tanner than I am? Let's try it with this brown. That might work. Or what if I use this more pinkish color with the brown? The lighting in here, it's getting kind of dark, and so my lighting isn't that great for this right now. That could make a good shading color for like the corners of my nose. Now, this top part of the head still looks ginormous, but don't worry, we're going to cover up most of that with hair. Okay, so I'm going to erase this a little bit, use this dark brown to replace that shading. Now you do not have to get this detailed. If you just want to make a decent looking face, you could just color this a flat, solid version of your skin tone. But I'm going to use what I know about shading to accentuate my features and try to make my nose stand out a little bit. Or not stand out, that's not the right word. But shape my nose without having outlines. Now I have a lot of freckles on my nose and cheeks, but only when you get very close to my face. From far away, my skin doesn't look freckly. If you have freckles, finding a nice light brown like this can be good for adding them on top of your fairer skin tone. Put this shadow under my nose here. I may have ended the nose too short. Oh well. You know, it's just one drawing. I'm just getting the hang of it. Getting a feel for it. And it's not my first time drawing like this. It's just been a while. can feel happy with that. And then I'll just take this lighter skin tone and go back over those shaded parts. Actually, that's the too pinky one. And then also color it lightly over the rest of my face. And as you do this, you can also take out that pencil line from around the eye. You could replace it with like a color pencil line if that looks better, or with like just this darker brown, so that way that line isn't so harsh. You know, just depending on what you want your portrait to look like. Oops. And you know, if you accidentally draw one eyelash going crazy, remember that that happens in real life, so it's perfectly fine. One thing I would caution you about is don't color too hard with your skin tone. If you color really hard and you can see the direction of your coloring lines, it's gonna make it look it's gonna make it look less realistic. Whereas coloring very lightly with smooth strokes is gonna make it look more realistic and more neat. Gotta erase that framework line. And even if your skin tone is very light, just adding that around the eye can make the eye pop more and can make the face look more natural, look better. I'm just going over the nose here. Try not to change the direction you're coloring a lot, except to like follow the way that your skin is laying. I know that sounds kind of weird, but try to follow the direction of the plane. And color right through your eyebrows. Your skin is under them. So that's just going to make them look even better. Something under my paper. Okay, now that I've gone over my nose, it's looking kind of flat. Like I don't have a dark enough shade here, so I'm going to take this darker brown. Oh, that's mahogany. Oh, that's light brown. I have a dark brown. So if you don't know this, oops. So if you don't know this, mahogany is a reddish brown, very reddish when you're trying to do a face. It can look really good if you do have darker skin to give that feeling of blood being under your skin, making it look sort of reddish can be good. But for me, since I'm trying to do shading with it, I need to use like a regular brown. Right. Don't want to add too much of this very dark brown because then my nose will be highlighted too much. I'm just using it very lightly. And now I think I've overworked it. It's okay. I can take out some of that colored pencil with my regular eraser. You probably can't take out all colored pencil with an eraser, but you can take out a good portion if you need to. I just don't like the way it's developing. There we go. More like just a distinct line here, there. And then use this more medium brown. Ah! To be honest, I don't think it looks that great. Okay, I think that looks better. Not perfect, but passable. Alright, and that's what we strive for. Okay, so I think I've taken up enough of your time. That's all I'm going to do today. Even though I only showed you how to practice one eye, make sure you practice both eyes. Practice your nose if you want to. If you're one of my students, you won't need it for your final artwork, but there it is in case you wanted to know. All right, see you next time.